everybody. Welcome to the Entrepreneurial Truth Podcast. My guest today is Wynn Charles. Wynn was born with cerebral palsy, and she has defied the odds by becoming an author. Her memoir, I Win, is an amazing story of how she remembers her life through the years of having a condition called CP. As a competitor in the Kona IronMan Triathlon, CEO of her own jewelry design company, and motivational speaker, Wynn Charles is truly an inspiration to many. Today, Wynn Charles tours the country, speaking to schools and institutions to raise awareness about cerebral palsy, living a full life no matter what holds you back. She's also an advocate of veterans across the world. Welcome to the show, Wynn.
Thank you for having me, Jim. And for those of you who just thought Jim spoke French, I do have cerebral palsy, and let me give you guys a quick introduction on what cerebral palsy is. Cerebral palsy is a lack of oxygen injury at birth. No, I can't pass it on to my kids. I get that a lot. If I choose to have kids, they could be able-bodied. And cerebral palsy is a lack of oxygen injury at birth. So yes, I was diagnosed June 22nd, 87, which happens to be my birthday, with cerebral palsy.
Wow. Happy birthday to you, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I love the story because it's like you let nothing hold you back. You're an amazing individual. You really, really are. I mean, we're fortunate. I've had stuff happen to me, but most of us are fortunate not to have these really terrible things happen. You took this and you just turned it into something, beautiful. Do you know what I mean?
Yes, but I also give people the daily realities of CP, and I also try to tell people the struggles of CP. And when I become a full-time content creator in the next 4 months, my goodness, in the next 4 months, because I'm giving up the day job in 20 May. I keep wanting to say May of 2020. Well, that's not true, May. And so I will be a full-time content creator as of May. And I'm super excited to see what I can teach people full-time about CP.
Oh, that's good. That's good. So explain to me a little bit more about the condition and how it affects you day to day.
Well, number one, I need 24-hour care, and I have moderate ataxia spastic cerebral palsy, which is one of the most common cerebral palsies out there. And mine is moderate, mine is not severe. So I sit smack dab in the middle of the cerebral palsy spectrum, and I need 24-hour care, meaning I need help showering, I need help putting my PJs on, getting dressed in the morning. But other than that, I'm independent, and I need help cooking, because I can't cook to save my life due to my cerebral palsy. But other than that, I am technology savvy enough to write books, to run 2 podcasts, soon to be 3 podcasts, and then
Nice.
I am using technology to share the gifts and challenges of cerebral palsy.
Wow. See, I can't cook just because of incompetence, but
Well, that helps.
I'm just kidding. No, it's true though. I'm a terrible cook. I think I could probably burn toast and water and all of that. I'm pretty bad at that stuff actually. But um, tell me a little bit more about your book.
My original book, and I call it my original book because I wrote that after my mom died in 2010, and that book came out in 2011 and hit gangbusters. Not only were my friends, my family, my immediate friends, people that know me, complete strangers started buying I Win, and I have written a couple novels since.
Wow.
I am now taking a hiatus off writing books and just focusing on YouTube and podcasting because I figured in 2021 I'll be publishing a book that's been sitting, actually two books that's been sitting on my desktop computer for umpteen months and need to get out there. And I will see how this 1 year go 1 year goes, the first year in entrepreneurship with cerebral palsy, and see how the year of content creation goes. And then if all fails in content creation year one, I will go back to book publishing and be an author as my full-time income.
Wow. I don't think you're gonna fail. I don't think you will. I
I don't
really
think I'm
don't.
going to
I
fail
really
either.
don't.
And plus, I'm going back to journalism school as of January 28th, 2020. And so I'll be the graduating class of 2024. And then I'll have a degree in my second degree in mass communications.
Wow. You're just amazing. You're just an amazing person. So you mentioned the content writing. You mentioned you mentioned the running. Now that or the marathon or I'm sorry, I'm mis speaking the actual
That's okay.
term.
I am a retired triathlete, and
Wow.
for those of you that, yes, I am a triathlete. For those of I did it for 1 year and had to give it up due to my other obligations were calling me. Slash, I people want me to do it again, but with a different teammate and with a different partner, I can do it. I just have to put myself back in physical shape to do it. But I did it with a partner for 1 year, and that partner happened to be my family member. And yeah, being a triathlete is one of the toughest things you will ever go through in your life. I thought cerebral palsy was tough, but I'm realizing that looking back on it, being a triathlete was super tough. Now, granted, and this goes for any triathlete in the world, they are so self-centered. It's not even funny. I've spoke to high-end personal trainers about this, and they agree with me that triathletes are just a breed, a breed of their own. And so for me to go back out of retirement to be a triathlete again, when I would have to get back into physical shape, too, I would have to um, pick a totally different teammate to do it with.
I understand. Do you what made you want to become an author, an entrepreneur, that type of thing? What motivated you to want to do that?
Um, after watching after watching my mom I thought, well, might as well do my calling, and my calling has always been motivational speaking, and my calling has always been inspiring others, and my calling has always been to I really wanted a journalism degree since I was in the 8th grade, and unfortunately, my mother decided another path, and I blame it on her. And she decided that her daughter must go into education.
That is so good. That is so good.
And so I decided to kick the bucket, on education. And as of May, I'll be a full-time entrepreneur, and I have kicked the bucket on education, and I am super excited to kick the bucket on education. I knew this time was coming for me to get out of the education field, even though I love the kids, the admin end of it, not so much. The admin end of it, all the teachers who are going to be listening to this podcast, who do have the side hustles out there, yeah, the admin end of teaching is tough. The admin end of teaching is tough. And what I didn't like is the paycheck. I did not like the small paycheck that teachers are willing to make and willing to give up. They're willing to give up hours in a day where they can't go home and be with their own families because they have to sacrifice. And when you look at what teachers are doing, I think teachers should be paid more, number one. And I think that diversity in the classroom is lacking. So that's why I'm kicking bucket on education. And I am truly excited to see what May brings and June, and then we'll carry on from there.
It sounds exciting, and I understand that though. Teachers are severely underpaid, and it is a problem in this country. We expect our kids to be educated, but then we don't want to pay the people that are educating them.
No.
I totally agree with you on that.
We expect our kids to be educated, and the only reason why I stayed in the education field longer than I wanted to is because of the parents. The parents, I am very lucky. I was working at a private school. I still am, as we record this interview, and the parents wanted me to stay. The admin wanted me to stay, but I didn't want to stay. I mean, people will be listening to you, Jim, and I speak, driving in their vehicles, driving to the office. And to me, giving podcast interviews and recording podcasts, running 3 podcasts, one being the Art Work of Jobs, which is talking about content creation on YouTube. The other one being Ask When, which is just interview show of everyday people with inspirational stories. The third one being the artwork of CP, which talks about 2 women having CP, me being one of them, my girlfriend being the other one. I don't think this is work. I'm not in it for the money, although the money's nice. I am in it to help people and inspire people.
I agree. I like that. 3 podcasts. I do one, and I was doing another one, but man, that's a lot of work. It's a lot of work to do all that.
Yeah.
I'm sorry about that, but it's a lot of work to be able to run 3. I run 1, and I have a show come out almost every day, so I know how difficult that is. That's just amazing. I mean, you really go 100% on what you do. You really do. So we're gonna put those shows in the link below, the YouTube thing today, so that, people can check those out and see you in those other podcasts, because that's really good. I'm blown away by you right now. I really am. I think you have taken everything that's come to you and turned it into something good.
Yep. I try.
You do. Okay, so you had on there, you were speaking, you're a speaker, and where do you speak, and what are your topics? Is it about CP, or do you have other topics that you talk about as well?
I when I get the opportunities, I speak. I primarily use my podcast as my motivational speaking tool, but when I get the opportunities, I do try to speak with help, obviously,
Mhm.
and so I will speak on CP and never giving up hope. I will speak now on entrepreneurship from a CP perspective. I will speak on hosting a podcast. I will speak on writing books with a disability.
Yeah, I know. What is it? Just got to ask this. What's a typical day like for you? I want people to know what it's
Well,
like.
do you really want to know?
Yeah,
I
yeah,
will
definitely do.
I will give a brief synopsis. I am up at 6:30 a.m. Always will be, and I start working from 6:30 a.m. to till about 5 p.m. and then throughout the day I get help, and then I typically I typically work out two 2 days a week, which is Mondays, which is Wednesdays and Thursdays. And so I typically go to the gym um, 2 days a week. One of those days is a physical therapy program called the Bridging Bionics program out of Silmas, Colorado. And I am the first woman to be walking in an exoskeleton robot
Oh,
suit,
nice.
and so that's new technology. Um, and then the other day I rock climb, which is not new technology to me, but it keeps me in good shape. And after seeing what my father went through, and after seeing what my mom went through, it puts a whole new perspective on my life. So I'm up at 6:30. I'm working. I'm I take breaks throughout the day. I mean, I wasn't on my laptop today as we record this. This will be the first time I will be on my laptop, and I will do homework on my laptop, obviously, but I'm not, because I sit on the older side of millennial. I'm not addicted to my phone. I'm not addicted to social media. I am a little addicted to Twitter, but that's about it. And so I think the younger generation behind me is getting more and more addicted. I mean, I have a stepsister who is 23 years old, and she is now addicted to her phone. And I'm like, no, honey, you're not you're not gonna be addicted to your phone. I want to teach people about cerebral palsy. I use my phone and my laptop as assistive technology.
Wow, I'm addicted to my phone. I gotta admit that. I mean, it just seems like I'm always talking to somebody about the show, or all kinds of different things that I'm involved in, and it just seems like the messages are important to the business, so I have to keep doing the same thing. Every day I'm looking at the phone like, oh, quite a
Yeah,
bit. So I mean,
yeah.
if you can get rid of the phone, oh my gosh, that's another thing that I find amazing. That's a
No,
difficult thing to do.
I typically, I've been known to leave the phone in cars, and I've been known I go, to give you an example, I go to physical therapy without my phone, and I go walk fine without my phone. So I can leave this phone on the counter, and it can sit there all day if it pleases. All day if it pleases. I
That's
mean,
great.
I took Facebook off my phone. I am
Oh,
on Instagram, but I took Facebook off my phone, and I do like my podcast. I listen to those, and so I like music just as much as the rest of them. I grew up with a musical background, and so but I'm not addicted to my phone per se because I sit on the other side of millennials. I mean, I am a '90s kid. I grew up in the '90s. I did not even bring my laptop to a family medical emergency in May. People were saying, bring your laptop, bring your laptop, bring your laptop. And the only thing I had with me at the time was my phone. And I did homework off my phone. And because I didn't want to be sitting there on my laptop, I wanted to be spending time with a person who was essentially dying, my dad. And
mm,
so I am really conscious of how I use my phone, even though I use it as assistive technology. I'm really conscious of how I use my phone.
yeah. I mean, I think we all should, to a point, because we have to live in the real world every once in a while too. And you're reminded of
Yes,
that.
we do.
It's hard because us as entrepreneurs in business, it's difficult because you're always getting somebody needing something, or
Yeah.
you're collaborating with other people, so you have to talk to them. You mentioned you had a co-host on one of your shows, and so that's probably something you have to coordinate and stuff like that
Well,
as well.
my co-host, before she was my co-host, she's my BFF in real life. So
Nice.
that makes it easy. That makes
Yes.
it easy.
Yes.
And I convinced her to help me. I convinced her to help me with my original show because I, when I typed in cerebral palsy into now what they call Apple Podcast, they used to call it iTunes. And
Yeah,
so
I
this
know they
was
changed it.
back in the day of iTunes. This was podcasting out iTunes on the phone, and this was Apple podcast on the iOS devices. And when I typed it in cerebral palsy, there was nothing,
Wow.
absolutely nothing. And
Wow.
last time I looked, um, there was 17 podcasts all related to cerebral palsy. Three of the three of two of them belong to me.
Wow.
The rest of them are defunct.
That's because people aren't consistent. And it's difficult because you have this thing that happened to you, and yet you're up at 6:30. You're working hard. You've got books out. You've got, 3 podcasts. I really admire what you do. I just do.
Well,
I do.
three podcasts. One, the third is going to be launched on February 14th on Valentine's Day, and it's
Oh, okay.
going to be all talks about YouTube content creation, because when I type in YouTube, because now I'm a YouTuber and I have my own YouTube channel, and I called the artwork of jobs, and so if people want to go subscribe, they can go type in my name and go have fun with that. But again, when I type in YouTube, how to create a YouTube channel on my podcast being catching apps, my my podcasting catching apps, only two came up. I'm like, well, there's a niche market that needs to be diverse voices need to be put in that market as well.
Mm-hmm. Oh, you got a good mind for all this too. You really do. You have how many books have you put out, or how many books are published right now?
How many books are published? 5. I'm about to say 10,
Wow.
11,
10 or
11,
11? Oh my
11,
goodness.
10 or 11.
So how
And
does
they
that, can you tell us, for the audience sake, how does that process work? I mean, I know a lot of people want to write a book, but they have a hard time because they don't understand the publishing and all that other stuff.
I use speech dictation to write my books, and I use my laptop to write my books. And so right now, because I'm going back to journalism school, that's why I'm taking a little bit of a hiatus from my books. But as soon as I finish my degree, I'll be back to publishing books. But I use speech dictation to write my books, and then I get editors to edit my books, and then I use Kindle Create Space, Kindle Direct Publishing to publish my books.
Okay, so it's Kindle you're using to do that, and that's via Amazon.
Yeah.
Correct. Okay.
Yes.
Man, that's amazing. So you can dictate your books, and then you get it edited, and you get it yourself published then.
Yeah.
So that's good. That's good. That's really, really something else. I mean, are they on different topics or?
I published a book on how to write books using speech dictation, and then I'm more knowing for I Come a Win, because that was the original book, and that will be my baby. But yeah. I am better as a novelist than I am memoirist. Yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So, do you have advice for entrepreneurs in general? You know what I mean? Just somebody just starting out or something like that. What would be your advice to that person?
Well, if you grew up with a father, and now this is going to make me cry, because that's okay. But I grew up with, I was fortunate enough to have not only a stay-at-home mom, but a father who did really well in sound engineering, and he also did home entertainment for many years. Once he got off the road from sound engineering, his first thought was to open up Aspen Audio Inc. and didn't close that until 2010. And so I get the entrepreneurial spirit from my dad. He made the money to support me in his own ways, in his own company. And so I get the entrepreneurial spirit from my dad. And my dad always said, ask for what you're worth. whether your coaching fee is $400, don't back down from that $400. Ask for what you're worth. And I also teach people how to start a podcast. I typically teach the disabled and their families how to start a podcast because I know it's hard to be a motivational speaker and fly across country with a disability. So you might as well use this wonderful technology to project to the world.
Yeah, definitely. Did you have a fear about going out there to people and things like that? We all feel sometimes that we're not good enough, and there's things that are hinder us. Did you ever have that fear of going public with things and trying to do podcasts and be on shows and things like that?
Did I have that fear? No, I did not have
Wow.
that fear of going public. I learned about cerebral palsy myself when I was in seventh grade. Then I didn't learn my official diagnosis until I was in my 20s.
Wow. So that's amazing. I mean, for me, even there are times that I'm up here and I'm doing my show and it's like, man, who am I? Why would they listen to me type thing? And here you are, and you just say, yeah, forget it. I'm going to do it anyway.
Oh, forget it. Yeah, because so many people need to be educated about cerebral palsy. It's not funny, and I just hope I impact who needs to be impacted that day. And I'm looking at where my fan base, um, when I explained to them that I had to disappear for a month, they understood why. And I said, life got in the way, life got in the way um, of my, of my podcast. Here's why I had to disappear for a month, and here's why I wasn't sounding so bright and chipper, because behind the scenes I was dealing with someone who could barely move. And even though he supported the podcast, my father supported the podcast tremendously. He even supported my books in more and more. But my fan base fully understood. And then when my father died on May 19th, I actually was planning to do a podcast recording that day, and I still did the podcast recording. And I um, said to my fan base, look, this is what happened, the end of me disappearing for a month. And I am sorry that I disappeared, but look, I needed to disappear for months and weeks on end. And then my dad passed away of a heart attack at 5 a.m. on May 19th. My fan base went, what? What? We've been listening to my fan base. I got condolence wishes on Twitter. I literally did. I got condolence wishes on Twitter from a fan that's been following me, that also hosts a podcast. That he knew something. All my fan base knew something was wrong, but I didn't know that earbuds and me speaking could be that powerful. And this is why I'm doing what I'm doing.
Your message is very powerful. I think you're going to help a lot of people. I think you probably already have helped a lot of people. And I think that you have a really big heart for other people, and that you are someone that just wants to share what you're going through to encourage others and to help them to prosper as well.
Yes. And in the next couple of weeks, I will have a big announcement for my fan base that I think my fan base has been waiting for. They know that I'm going through this process, and as I welcome them into the next chapter of my life, I will slowly but surely state it. But I know that podcasting is powerful. I know that, and on the flip side, that we can't see. People ask me all the time, including people that know me personally, can you see the download numbers of your podcast? And I go, yes, I can, but I can't tell you who is listening. I have people in Africa listening. I have people in the United States listening. California happens to be my big listenership. I don't know why, but California happens to be my big listenership. But I do have people around the world listening, and they're listening to a woman speak the truth about cerebral palsy, along with other people on my big show Ask When, and we just hit 21,000 downloads of all time as we record this. My other show, The Artwork of CP, because it's CP related, it's a little bit of smaller niche, but I hope that will grow in the near future. And I hope that the artwork of jobs, it being an interview show all about YouTube, that will grow as soon as I launch it, because interview shows have always been more popular than me speaking into a microphone about CP with my girlfriend.
How long have you been podcasting, if I might ask?
I have been podcasting, well, over 4 years. This will be my fifth year, and my fifth year almost took the podcast away. My
Wow.
fifth year almost took the podcast away, but I managed to get back up on my feet, and yeah, yeah. So
Yeah. Yeah, I
just,
really,
just
yeah. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
keep, just keep being consistent about it, and you'll you'll see the natural growth over time and time again.
Yeah, I believe that too. I it's an amazing story. You have an amazing story, and I'm so appreciative that you chose to share that with me, and I'm on this show, because I think people take for granted a lot of things that they can do and stuff like that. And there's, a lot of us that feel like, as I had said before, that we're not good enough. And then I see somebody like, going through so much stuff and just, pushing past it and continuing to thrive. So I really appreciate you being here with me today.
Well, I really appreciate you reaching out to me, and what ended up happening. And you guys, I have to make a public announcement, because Jim, you also told me you went to kidney failure. I watched a person, my father, start his whole process. Turns out that he had stage 4 lung cancer, and he was taking Advil to mask the pain of lung cancer. And don't do that, you guys. Don't go for the Advil to mask the pain of anything. Go to the doctor. I know I'm talking to men. I know I'm talking to women. But I truly think that the guys out there, yes, guys, I'm talking to you, should at least make an annual checkup, so that just in case they get diagnosed with lung cancer, because you hear the asbestos thing going on and on and on TV, and then you hear that that particle bond and sheet rock can go into your lungs. And yes, my dad was around sheet rock for many, 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 many years, but he it was too late for him. So that would be my plea to anyone listening, to get diagnosed in a timely manner, and so then you won't have to go, or your child won't have to go through what I went through in May, and had to go watch my mother get diagnosed with meningitis, a viral meningitis, and then have my father die of a heart attack, and die of nursing home abuse, essentially, because as a result of, he wasn't being monitored. So and he had stage 4 lung cancer at this time. And so I would say to all the guys out there, and you guys know this, I said this on my podcast, I said it millions of times over there, get diagnosed, go to your primary care doctor, and let's figure out what we can do before it's too late. Because kidney failure, and watching someone go through kidney failure is really, really scary. And that's one of the reasons why my dad went to the hospital. The other reason why my dad went to the hospital is he said to a doctor, I can't breathe. And so that doctor said, you need to go to the ER now. Turns out that he went with turns out that he went with lung cancer and kidney failure. So.
Yeah, guys, I mean, I know I have the same type of thing where I don't want to go to the doctor. And, sometimes we just don't want to know. You know what I mean? But I advocate you as well to, as Wynn said, to go get checked up at least once a year, and just to make sure everything's going okay. Our fathers and women, wives, and mothers, and all this. People rely on you. So just take care of yourself.
Yeah, just think, And for me, it puts a whole new perspective on a healthy lifestyle. I mean, watching what my dad went through, and then watching what my mom went through, and it's, yeah. And for those of you who are wondering what the episode on my podcast entitled IT is, go listen to the podcast and figure out the rest of my story. There's another part of my story that I didn't want to bring on the podcast tonight with Jim, but if you go back and listen to Ask Win or the artwork of CT, look for the episode called It, and then you'll figure out the rest of my story, what happened to me on June 23rd, 1 month after my dad died. And I'll just leave it at that. And yeah, because I want to make people aware that this can happen, and I want people to be aware of my story, and I'm here for you guys, and Jim is here for you guys. And so if you DM us on Facebook, we'll keep it in confidence, But you, I think the power of podcasting has saved my life, has saved my life. And um, without the love and support of my friends and family, my life would be completely different. I wouldn't be sitting, I tell you this much, I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you today, Jim, without the power of chosen family and really good friends, because I am sitting here as an orphan with cerebral palsy. And if my dad took the appropriate measures to go to the doctor when he wasn't feeling that great and didn't let it go on, I believe he would have been a cancer survivor.
Mm-hmm.
And lung cancer is not talked about. I have quickly discovered that one. So knowledge meningitis. So lung cancer awareness color is white. You guys, it's pure white, and lung cancer could happen to anyone, and I do not want anyone to lose a family member to lung cancer like I did. And heart attacks can happen to anyone, but I really want you guys to go to the doctor and don't make your wife's beg and plead to you, make that annual checkup on your own, because us as women, we do it all the time, but you guys don't. So we have to be careful when we lose, because we're starting to lose baby boomers, all the next generation behind me, and is starting to die. And I don't want people to die of what my father died of or what my mother died of. And again, my mother died of meningitis. My father died of a heart attack, but I really don't want these to go any further. And my mother got diagnosed with cerebral leaking brain aneurysm, which I am really a big proponent of getting that checked out as well. And let's make this world a better place.
I totally agree. I appreciate you coming on today. Hit the link, hit the subscribe button. The links will be down in the description. And I appreciate each and every one of you. And we'll see you next time.